situation on the ground in Gaza, Israel still isn't letting essential medicines enter the Strip. The health ministry there says Israel's only allowing an average of 5 trucks a week into the Strip, leaving medical workers struggling to save patients. Well, joining us from the Doha Forum is Alexandre De Croo. He's the administrator of the United Nations Development Programme, and I think it's also important to add you, the former Prime Minister of Belgium. A very warm welcome to Al Jazeera. So your tenure at the UN Development Programme begins at a time of immense challenges, doesn't it? A fragile ceasefire in Gaza, seismic changes in the Middle East and natural disasters across Asia, weakening already vulnerable economies. Where do you begin dealing with multiple challenges on multiple fronts?
Well, we try to begin wherever support is needed, and at this moment there is multiple crises, multiple natural disasters at the same time. We're stretched, that is for sure. Not only UNDP, many UN organizations are stretched. And of course, we try to start as soon as we can, often dependent on, for example, access when there is a natural disaster, but also, of course, dependent on the access that we try to get, for example, in Gaza. In Gaza today, we have approximately 180 people working there who already started in removing as much as debris as possible. But I think we have almost 200,000 tons of debris that we removed. That is far less than 1% of the total. So the challenge is an immense one.
And these immense challenges are happening at a time in which the UNDP has to adapt to funding cuts, not only that impact the UNDP itself, but also many third-party NGO partners, all in the midst of a defunding crisis for international aid across the board and development groups. How do you cope?
Yeah, those funding cuts obviously have an impact, and I mean, when you have less funding, it's unavoidable that we will have less capacity to do things. What we have to do, of course, is to squeeze out as much as possible. What we have to do is to make sure that what we do it in the best possible quality. But yeah, those funding cuts have an impact, and it has an impact on human lives and on the most vulnerable. And to link it back to the crisis, for example, in the Middle East, well, population in Gaza is incredibly vulnerable, often also a very vulnerable young population, a lot of children. The faster we get access, and the faster we get a broad access, the more people we can help, of course. And we, from a perspective of protecting people, from a development perspective, the faster there is clarity on the peace conference, the faster we can help people who are today in dire need for help.
Well, I'd like to ask you about clarity on the direction of peace, because according to the UNDP's own estimates, the recovery and reconstruction effort in Gaza is immense. We're talking, you've already touched upon it, 61 million tonnes of rubble need to be cleared, not to mention huge parts of Gaza demined. Essential infrastructure needs to be restored, and people need a steady supply of humanitarian aid. What are your priorities on the ground? And who is going to foot the recovery bill, estimated at $70 billion?
Well, priorities, first of all, of course, is on the medical side. We know that there are risks of communicable disease that would start propagating. So providing medical support is crucial. But really taking away the debris is really also at the basis of everything. Because if you do not take the debris out, actually the health risk continue, and the reconstruction can't really start. All that is obviously going to demand financing. Part of it we do on existing budgets, but let's be clear, the sheer volume of what is necessary obviously is not possible to do on the classic budgets that we have. So we hope, of course, that a peace conference also leads to clarification of financing. Now, the financing can be broad, of course. That can be grants, can also be loans. But from the perspective of us trying to help as many people as possible, the faster that peace conference is, the faster we can help people. And the population of Gaza is really in extremely difficult circumstances. The longer you make that population wait, the tougher it will be to start a reconstruction and to start giving people a fair chance of a peaceful future again.
And Alexandre De Croo, on the diplomatic front, I mean, the UN Security Council recently appointed that board of peace as a transitional administration in Gaza. A panel of experts will be called upon to produce an economic development plan to, quote, rebuild and energise Gaza. Is the UNDP involved in this board of peace initiative?
Well, we are ready to, and UNDP is an organisation with a lot of knowledge throughout the world, often also in very fragile circumstances. I think we are really respected for what we have been able to achieve in those circumstances over the past decades, past years. And I think in Gaza we are one of the organisations that is being respected by multiple sides. So we have knowledge, we have experience to put at the table. But really, what is most important for us is speed. The faster things are cleared out, the faster we can start helping people. Let's first start with the immediate needs, and then afterwards, of course, there's going to be a long process of reconstruction, of political stability, of accountability, of building back healthcare, education systems. I mean, we almost have to restart from scratch. 50% of the population is out of a job today, so the reconstruction of the society, not just the physical reconstruction, but also of society, is going to be a long effort. We are in a position where we are obviously willing to put our expertise at the table, but really it's more important that speed is more important today than us necessarily being at the table.
Very lastly, I wonder if we can focus on another huge challenge for your organisation, because just last week, as you know, torrential rain and floods hit several parts of Asia, including Sri Lanka, killing many hundreds. What can be done, you think, by the international community to mitigate the impacts of the climate crisis? And do historically high carbon emitting nations have a greater responsibility to support those nations that are hardest hit, often the poorest?
Well, first of all, let's be clear. Everything is on the table to reduce the emission of greenhouse gases. It's not that we're waiting for some magical solution to fall out of the sky. I mean, all the puzzle pieces are on the table. So everything that needs to happen is speed up things, is reforming our economies, making investment in renewable energy from an economic perspective also attractive. If you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, well, 2 out of 3 of the Sustainable Development Goals are or stalled or not on timely process. So we really have to speed that up. So that's on the emission side. Of course, we'll also have to work on better preparing and on adapting towards weather phenomena which are more harsh than before and more frequent than before. All that demands investments. These are choices that need to be made. These are very often choices that national governments need to make. What we see on the positive side is that many of these solutions are more affordable than ever. And my organisation, UNDP, has a lot of expertise that we can provide to those governments, and we see what the deadly toll can be of inaction. I think more than ever, this is a time of action. The knowledge is there, the political will is there in some places, and it's also up to us to convince more people that now is the time to act.
Alexandre De Croo, Administrator of the United Nations Development Programme, many thanks for joining us.